You sure?
Oh, Klein sounds salty.
Welcome to South Jersey Girls. I'm Klein Aleardi.
I'm Jane Feld.
I'm Elyse Notarianni.
And I'm Marianne, Aleardi.
When I brought this topic up, two people got very intense about a specific idea of whether or not cheerleading is a sport.
Well, it's not.
I'll let Elyse start.
I don't understand what is very sporty about it other than the fact that you are adjacent to a sport.
I mean, I don't totally disagree with you.
That's not true. Cheerleaders work very hard.
You feel that way because you were a cheerleader.
I was a cheerleader because that was my only option. There was nothing else for a girl to do. There were
nothing else?
Wait,
not at all?
Stop. I mean, I'm not that much younger than you. There were no other sports that you were allowed to play at your school?
No. So this was the 70s. This was before, I don't know, movements happened. There in my neighborhood where I grew up, there were no girls' sports. Like the only thing girls could do was cheerlead. And so that's what I did. But cheerlead, I mean, do you think gymnastics is a sport?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Well, yeah, I think if you look at a lot of the cheerleading teams, that's what they do now.
Well, I think not all cheerleading teams do that. No, okay, I don't want to sound like I'm dissing cheerleaders. I think cheerleading is great. I think if that's what you're into, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely difficult. I could never be a cheerleader, but that doesn't make it a sport.
No, but wait, we have to make the distinction. You're saying that the teams who compete and they have heavy gymnastics, that is a sport, you would say, yes?
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
I don't think that just because they do heavy duty stuff makes it a sport. I think if you're competing as a cheerleading group and that's like just all you're doing, competing against each other, that's a sport. But if you're on the sidelines of another sport, then that's encouragement. I don't know what to call that. I'm not trying to diminish it, but I'm also not trying to say it's a sport.
All right, I do want to clarify one thing about cheerleading. While I did cheerlead, my 3 daughters never did because I always say to them, I don't want you on the sidelines. You should be out there playing. I didn't.
So would you have let your kids do that competitive cheerleading then?
I would have let them do gymnastics.
Okay.
But
you sure? Because I was pulled out of gymnastics.
Oh, Klein sounds salty.
Oh my gosh. When Klein, this is so bizarre.
I had the chance.
She was 4. I took her to just do gymnastics for fun. And they asked if she could be on their elite team at 4. And
because I was great.
Because she was great, yeah. She would have had to go to practice every day from like 9 to 12. And I said, she's in school. And they were like, well,
it's preschool. It's not that important.
Oh, it's so ridiculous.
You could have been homeschooled.
Yeah, you could have homeschooled me. Come on.
By who, me? Oh, yeah. That's a good idea.
Stuff like that where it's like you're so young and you are going into this super elite thing. There's a part of me that's kind of like if that's not what you're going to do for your sport, it should just be your hobby. And it's not. I don't understand.
So you should make that decision at 4?
Yeah. Did not everyone have their entire life figured out at the age of 4?
I should have been like, Klein, tell me now, do you want gymnastics to be your main sport? Do you want to go to the Olympics?
She's like, I'd like lunch now, please. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I had my cousin who's now like 27. He played hockey. He made the junior hockey team, and they lived in Voorhees, and he would have to go to Aston, Pennsylvania every day after school.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a haul.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but he really, really wanted it. And like he thought up until the end that he would be D1, and it ended for 2 reasons. One of them is he got a concussion and it was really scary. And I mean, he was fine, but it kind of made him rethink. And 2, it's so competitive that even though he was in junior hockey, which is like a level below being into the professional circuit, they wanted him to play on a junior hockey team in Canada. And a couple of guys on his team went there to do that, to try to get into the pros. But he just went to college and is kind of done.
Well, I think if you would want, I would think if you want to go to the pros for hockey, you have to go into Canada is a really good place to go.
Yeah, but if you're
Right?
thinking you want to play in college and then move on with your life,
Yeah.
that's not so much.
I knew
Yeah.
someone in college who played, I think like D1 soccer. She was going to be a senior, and I was talking to her about her looking for a first job, and like her resume was just soccer. And it was like, okay, that's going to be difficult for you then to find a job.
Oh, I totally disagree with that because when I was working in marketing, I had interns and I hired, I think 24 interns in the time that I was there, and my best ones were always like D1.
That's so many interns, first of all.
Yeah.
Did they have work experience too?
Some of them did. Some of them was just leadership, like leadership on campus or leadership in their sport. But I always found that athletes were some of the best employees that I ever had because they were really organized. They were really driven. They thought creatively. They worked well as a team. I always looked for that.
Yeah, I did that too when I was looking for interns. But I feel like there's a difference between interns and your first real world job. Because like when I'm working with interns, it's kind of like what you're saying. Like you want the discipline and the work ethic. But once you make that jump to like an entry level job, you need like skills that are relevant in your field.
Well, if they were a good intern, wasn't that their skills relevant in their field?
I'm saying this girl like hadn't really interned. She had like one internship.
She did. Well, it is. When you play college level sports, it's hard to do anything else.
That's what I'm saying.
You're just practicing all the time.
Right.
You know, if you remember when we talked to Carly Lloyd, she had said that she was always kicking a soccer ball, like always. She didn't go to birthday parties. She didn't want to play with friends. There are I don't think I know any kids who have that kind of passion about a sport. It's really rare. And that's why
I think if you have that, then you should, sure.
Yeah.
Go for it.
But most kids whose parents are putting them into all kinds of, extra training things, they don't necessarily have that kind of sport, that kind of passion.
Right. I'm dreaming of having esports kids, so I can just send them down to the basement, and that's my dad.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that we can talk about if that's a sport.
Do you even know what that is, Mom?
It's basically playing video games, right? That's for me, that's a stretch.
Like legitimately, you can make a lot of money doing this. You can be the best, and that's great. But the rest of them, they're just literally in their basement, like with sallow skin, and like it late at night.
Lacking
throwing shots at the esport wannabes.
Yeah. When you're talking about like being addicted to a sport, like if you're playing basketball all the time, that doesn't seem as bad as being addicted to video games.
I don't know. I think it's pretty bad. I think that's so.
Well, basketball, like you can't play it at night legitimately in the middle of the night on a snowstorm.
Yes, you can.
It's harder.
No, but that's exactly what I mean. Like you shouldn't be devoting every second of every day to one thing. Like that's just that's just not a good idea.
People who do that are few and far between. I think
I agree.
Are like not everyone's Carly Lloyd of the world. Like I listen to Carly Lloyd speak and I'm like, you are awesome and I will never be anything like you.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that people want to play in college because it's so demanding.
I didn't play sport in college. I stopped after high school. But I have 4 sisters and all 4 of them went to school on field hockey scholarships.
Wow.
But
where were you in all this?
I played field hockey until 8th grade and then decided there was nothing I wanted to do less than hang out with my sisters. So I quit that and I went to tennis, which I was really mediocre at, but I had fun.
Yeah, but you can still play tennis. That's what's great about that.
That's true.
That's true. I have a question because I just read in our December issue something that someone said that she never dates tennis players because they're too competitive. Mm-hmm. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah, tennis players are slightly nuts. And I don't say this in like a bad way, but they're just intense. And it's just them out there on the court and they just bring that mentality into everyday life with them. And it's
oh my God.
I would never think that.
Oh yeah, just be wary.
I kind of get it.
Players seem like quiet.
The entire match, they're like yelling when they hit the ball.
The amount of like death threats that I have heard from across the court, not toward me, because I was never at that level, but when you get really good, it's a whole thing. But my sisters loved playing sports.
Do you think they feel they had a college experience like most people.
Yeah, they had a good time.
The one pro to all of that is that you do have a community.
Actually, I was texting. I met my friend's girlfriend's sister the other day, and she was telling me that she's going to school for field hockey at where my sister went to school. And she was asking about the coach and everything. And I texted my sister Katie, and she goes, "The coach is the best woman that I've ever met. She changed so much about my life, but she will also make you feel fear for your life at every moment. She's the most
Wow.
terrifying.
Sounds about right.
She will change you." And I was like, okay,
Wow.
that sounds awful.
Last month, we released a series of interviews with some incredible South Jersey women as part of our Women's Empowerment series. You can find all of those interviews at sjmagazine.net. This is one of the interviews I did with New Jersey's First Lady Tammy Murphy.
Hi, Tammy. How are you? It is so great to see you.
It is fantastic to see you as well, Marianne, and thank you for having me.
Sure. So we're going to talk about maternal health, infant and maternal health, which I know is an issue that you're working on. Tell me why. Why are you focusing on that?
Well, I'll tell you, when Phil first came into office, we found out that New Jersey was 47th in the country in terms of maternal mortality rates. And by the way, 47th in the country, the United States overall is 55th in the world. So it's shocking. And
Yeah.
as a mother, as a mother of four, it seemed like something that really drew me it personally. And I wanted to see if I could somehow help move the needle in this space. And I naively went into this thinking that it would be access to care, and that if we could just provide access to care, then we would solve this problem. And clearly that has not been the case, and the statistics are very troubling. Yeah.
So do you know what is causing it if it's not access to care?
When you dig down and really understand what's going on and who is being impacted the most, you'll see that sadly, if you are a Black woman in the state of New Jersey, you are 7 times more likely than a white woman to die from maternity-related complications. And if you are a Black baby, you are 3 times more likely than a white baby to die from before your first birthday. Once one knows those kind of staggeringly horrific statistics in the year 2020.
Yeah.
And now, maybe the silver lining from this pandemic is that people actually have seen, yes, there are inequities. They've been laid bare, and there's no denying that anymore. But once you understand that that's where we are, you then start to say, well, how can that be? Is it, what is it? And unfortunately, it is a combination of many things coming together at one time. It's access to housing, it's access to workforce development, to education, to transportation, to finding doctors who will take Medicaid. I mean, childcare. I mean, it's so many things that are coming together in one place. And I have to put it out there. It is institutional discrimination and racism. Serena Williams and Beyonce, 2 powerful women of color who are role models for so many across this world. Those 2, with their incredible platforms, both had near-death scenarios when they were delivering. And, the fact that they could not be heard and communicate with their healthcare providers just goes to show, can you imagine if you didn't have that platform and you didn't have that confidence, that what would happen to you? So,
Yeah.
Camden and Atlantic City are 2 of our most challenging hotspots, I would say. And when you're wealthy, you certainly have a different healthcare scenario than when you're not. And then when you're living in some of these urban centers that are really challenged, it just builds on one another.
Yeah, that was really shocking for me, because to have Camden, Atlantic City so close to where I live and where our readers and listeners live, no one thinks that that's happening. Like, women are so active in protecting each other around here. I feel like once they start finding out, as you are showing us, they'll start doing more, because no one thinks women and infants are dying near us in such great numbers.
So, Marianne, I actually, knowing that I was going to be speaking to you, I actually have some statistics on Atlantic City and Camden that I would love to share with you.
Sure.
So, Atlantic City and Camden, Atlantic City has a Black infant mortality rate of 24.2%. And Camden has 16%. So clearly Atlantic City is the highest incidence of Black infant mortality of any urban center across New Jersey.
Wow.
In terms of preterm births, the state average for preterm births is 12%. In Atlantic City and Camden, both it's 13%.
Wow.
And then here another one that's really a challenge for us, but we are addressing is elective C-sections, and we have an average across the state, which is too high already, of 37%. This is from going back to 2018, but in Atlantic City, it's 47%.
Wow.
In Camden, it's 25%. So there are some things at play here that are really disturbing.
Yeah. So in Atlantic City, is that saying almost half of births are C-section? Wow. When in the state, it's only a quarter of births.
In the state, it's 37%.
Oh, 37, a little over. Okay. Wow.
Even that's too high. I mean,
it is high.
And then if you look at the numbers, so for example, the number of Black C-sections is 46%. So, and then white C-sections in Atlantic City is in the low 30s. So there's a lot of things at play here, and
Yeah.
20 minutes will not enable me to tell you everything that
Yeah.
they're looking at, but I will just tell you there are some disturbing statistics.
Yeah.
And we should all understand that and not deny that there is some it's not a level playing
Yeah.
field.
Do you find when people see these numbers, do they still deny, or do you, I mean, it's right there in front of you. Do they get it?
At this point in time, I think I've been going around for since Phil came into office, just talking to everyone and all the great stakeholders across our state who are working in this space. And is there a certain disbelief? Yes. I think there's also, when I say it, people are just they're surprised.
Yeah.
They can't believe that that's what the numbers are. But when I say it, no one's saying that that's not right. No one's challenging me and saying you're spewing something that's not true. So
yeah, good. Well, hopefully that will help move things along. Along those lines, how do you possibly even begin to fix that problem?
We have been working for 3 years in this space, doing what we can to kind of not only address the here and now, but also try and look to the future. So we have a whole bunch of initiatives out of my office, ranging from we have an annual Black Maternal and Infant Health Leadership Summit that we hold. That is really helpful because we bring all the stakeholders together. We have something called family festivals. We've had 6 of these across New Jersey. We had one in Atlantic City. We've had one in Camden. And this is where we literally bring state, county, and local resources together under one roof. Think kind of half block party and half job fair. And I mean, that's because we're trying to make it fun, because it's a little bit daunting for these people. And yet we've been able to help 6,000 families over the course of those 6 festivals. And that's really important, because it's interesting, because I was concerned we're going to run in and deal with one moment in time and then leave. And what are we leaving behind? It turns out the most interesting piece of this is at each of these family festivals, we have over 100 providers. And to watch the providers say, hey, Marianne, what do you do exactly? Because I had a client last week who needed X. Is that something you do? And then you see all these people exchanging cards. And so it's really creating a network, I think, that will live beyond it. But so we've got the summit, we've got the family festivals. We've done a lot of things on social media, particularly in times of COVID, in terms of trying to interview an OBGYN, interview a doula, and trying to ask questions. And we had people online who could ask, find out whatever answers they wanted and ask questions of us. Those still exist on our social media, by the way, if anybody's interested in that. And then probably another piece of the puzzle is that we have interdepartmental meetings. When we started out on this project years ago, there were 2 departments and agencies involved, obviously Department of Health and Children and Family Services. Today, 18 different departments and agencies come together 4 times a year with me to work on in this space, and to discuss how we can collaborate and find ways that we can work together going forward, and where there's overlap and deficiencies. But I'm leading up to probably our biggest thing, and that is that we have a group called the New Jersey Funders Collaborative, who has worked with us in support of a lot of these initiatives. They here and now are helping us as we pull together a strategic plan. This is a plan that has brought together national consultants who've been working in this space for decades, They are helping us to actually, our goal is to make New Jersey the safest and safest place to deliver and raise a baby, safest and most equitable place in the United States. But that plan has been underway. It's been we've been working on it for a year, and we are really excited because we are going to unveil that in January.
Oh, great. So does what you're doing, are there programs for providers who really, if there's this bias, that's where it's coming from? Are you addressing that?
So I think yes, the answer is yes, and it's not just me. I mean, the beauty, I'd say, Marianne, of this whole of what we're doing is I cannot say it often enough. There are really good people and organizations in New Jersey who have been working in this space, but have been working in silos.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, the New Jersey Funders Collaborative, which I already referenced, they have come together and helped us with all of these initiatives. They're helping us with the strategic plan, which is phenomenal. The legislators, there have been 32 pieces of legislation passed in this space since we started working in this space. I will tell you, the budget that Phil has just signed has money that's set aside for Nurture New Jersey, which is fantastic. Of course, that's something that's obviously near and dear to my heart. Also sets aside funds to help with reimbursement for midwives, which builds upon some of the work that we did last year, because last year we were working with doulas. And also, importantly, to your point, sets aside a good amount of money to go into every single one of our labor and delivery hospitals and all of our FQHCs and train people about implicit bias.
Right.
Which is obviously super important. But most importantly, this speaks volumes about the priorities of this administration and of the legislature, that this is a priority. This is something we must fix. We cannot tolerate this anymore. And so they're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're actually helping.
Yeah. I think we saw that from day one, really, that the governor had women's issues at the forefront. So, okay, you mentioned the leadership summit for Black maternal health.
Yes, this is the third annual leadership summit that we've held. Usually, the 2 years prior, we held them at Drumthwacket. Obviously, given times of COVID, we had a virtual gathering this time. It has grown in size over time. This year, we had over 200 people who stayed engaged via Zoom platform for over 5 hours. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, and this is bringing together all stakeholders. It's bringing together, healthcare systems with legislators, with commissioners, with doulas, with foundations, with, importantly, moms. The New Jersey Funders Collaborative really helped us because they enabled us to provide transportation for moms to be able to join us. And basically what we do is we have some speeches, but the real meat and potatoes of it is that we break people into rooms in this instance, and everyone works on an actionable plan for their particular space so that they can figure out how they're going to actually implement the strategic plan when we unveil it next month. And it's really fascinating to watch because, most of the time, Marianne, you'll find the healthcare systems might speak to another healthcare system, but they're not necessarily speaking to the legislators and a doula and a mom and an insurance provider and, all these other stakeholders who are involved at the same time. And so when you have a problem that's presented and you have everyone around the table who can bring their different vantage point to the fore, it's really productive and it's really rewarding, I think, for everybody involved. So
it seems so obvious, right? That we have all these key players, none of them talking to each other. It seems like, that might be a good idea if we have them all talk to each other.
Good momentum, by the way, because when the strategic plan gets rolled out, all of these people were tremendously enthusiastic. After the fact, the funders were thrilled with it. We've had all the people who are involved have reached out and said that was really productive, really excited, and can't wait for the strategic plan to be presented.
Great. So for a regular woman listening, is there something she can do?
The biggest thing is making people aware. And I think that we have a lot of social media outlets. We have a lot of platforms that people can go to and educate themselves, because I think that the more people talk about this, then the faster we're going to solve this, because we can't do it on our own. We need everybody to buy into this in order for us to really change the space that we're in.
I really think the more women find out about this, the more you will see change, because it's certainly something they want to do.
I think you are absolutely right. And certainly when I talk to people, when they are not aware, once they are aware, they do want to help in whatever ways they can.
Well, thank you. It is always wonderful to talk to you. This is such a great initiative. It's awesome.
I'm thrilled that you have me here, and I want to just share with you. I was grabbing my paper because I never remember the platform, so I want to just share the different platforms with you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So on Twitter and Facebook, it's if you go to @FirstLadyNJ, you can find all of these things we're talking about. On Instagram, it's @First Lady New Jersey, and our website is nj.gov/nurturenj.
Okay, that's great.
And the last thing I would say is that our goal is to make New Jersey the safest and most equitable place to not only deliver a baby but to raise a child, and that's our goal, and that's where we're heading.
That's great. It's everyone's goal, you would think, right? So thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Marianne.
It was so great talking to the First Lady. I can't believe those statistics, and I know women will help when they hear about that.
I know. I had no idea about any of that. It's shocking.
I know. There is so much more information on our interviews for the Women's Empowerment Series, which you can find at sjmagazine.net.
And if you want to hear more from us, make sure to subscribe. We're out every Tuesday. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.